What is politics if not a culture war? Isn't that the point of politics, to go out and debate and decide the future of the culture? If the Liberals aren't prepared to fight for the Australian culture, then what exactly is the point of them existing as a party?
Exactly right. I mean, John Howard, the greatest living Liberal, former Prime Minister, says that politics it's not a popularity contest, it is a contest of ideas. And of course, he was quoting his mentor, the late Senator John Carrick, another great Liberal who'd probably be rolling in his grave at the treatment of Moira Deeming and Catherine Deves, and seeing a Deputy Liberal leader like Susan Ley say, hey, don't get involved in the fight. If you're not in politics to fight for things which are right and true and beautiful, then why are you in politics? But unfortunately, too many of the modern Liberals are happy to go with the established orthodoxy, an orthodoxy which has been set by the political quad which runs Australia: Labor, Liberal, Greens and the Teals. They all believe the same thing on this gender issue. They all believe the same thing on the climate catastrophe. And we have this vanilla public policy that everyone in politics is expected to conform to. We've lost those divisions. We've lost the fight and the advocates for the things that really matter.
Well, just a couple of final questions here. If we just return to Moira for a second, we keep hearing from the Liberals that they want to see more women in politics. They have special programs set up for this sort of thing. I mean, I even went to one, regardless under protest, where they teach you to do things like take up the space to which you're entitled. And these are adult women they're telling this to. And then they sort of involve themselves in that terrible quota system that the Labor Party and the Greens use as well, to shove more high heels into the halls of power. But what sort of message are the Liberal Party sending to women in politics through the treatment of Moira Deeming? Because as a woman, would you really want to go in there knowing that your party's going to throw you under a bus like that?
Yeah, look, exactly right. The way Moira has been treated. I mean, a very talented, capable woman. Anyone who watched her maiden speech, if I can use the word maiden to describe her first speech these days, it was brilliant. She is clearly articulate, she's smart, she's got life experience, she's a mother, and yet here they are persecuting her unjustly. Everything that's happened in the Moira Deeming case is unjust. The allegations against her are unjust. It's not just Moira. I mentioned Catherine Deves earlier. Again, she was vilified. Matt Keane, who's in the shadow cabinet of the New South Wales Liberals and a former deputy leader, said that Catherine Deves should be disendorsed. I mean, again, another smart woman with a lawyer, track record of really articulate public advocacy, being told they're not wanted in the Liberal Party simply because they're standing up on these issues which are of concern to mainstream Australians. I actually think this will backfire on the Liberals. I think it'll help their women problem, because I think this is making the women of mainstream Australia angry, and I think it'll cause them to want to get involved in politics and take on these bullies like John Passuto.
You'd hope so, but at the same time, a lot of professional women who are the women you want to run for politics might not be fond of the reputation being dragged through the world's press because their leader decides to abandon them. But a final question here. After this whole mess has played out, do you think that Passuto has made himself unelectable?
Yes, I do. I do, Alexandra, because he's following the same footsteps of Matthew Guy, his predecessor. Matthew Guy went to the last Victorian election, again, Labor light. And not even just Labor light, he was actually Labor heavy. I mean, his policy was to put parents in jail who question their children going off to a gender clinic where they can be harmed. That was Matthew Guy's policy at the last election. John Passuto is following in his footsteps. They're not Labor light, they are Labor heavy, they're Green heavy, and while there's no choice for people down there in Victoria, they're just going to vote for the real deal, whether they like it or not, and that's why John Passuto is unelectable.